now to church, and it's about 6 o'clock, so it's dark, and that's why you can't see my face. But today we are talking about wounds, and just wanted to share from my life how I have dealt with some of my wounds, because wounds are usually tied to a significant event in our childhood, and we might not even realize how those wounds manifest today in our lives. So I have been in kids ministry pretty much my whole life as a volunteer, and then I was working as a physical therapist. I had my own practice and always volunteered in kids ministry, and I loved it and I was really good at it. And then I gave up physical therapy after having 5 kids, and actually then started working at a church in Greenwich and became part of the staff and did that there for 15 years. And when I came to harvest time, between leaving my job at Stanwich and coming to harvest time, I went to seminary and got my MDiv. And so my experience was pretty much only with kids and youth. I did lead a few mission trips, or actually many mission trips to Russia, and some of the team members were adults, but that's it. So one of the things that I've struggled my whole entire life is, I don't know if it's stage fright, because I wouldn't say it's that, but it's this overwhelming anxiety when I am in front of people. Even as a little kid, piano recitals were horrible. My hands would shake so much, and it was not that I wasn't prepared. It was just something took over me, and every time I was in front of people, I would get so red in my face, and I was probably more nervous about getting red in my face than even about being in front of people. Of course, later on in my early 20s, I had some amazing talks that I did, and it felt so good when the audience responded to what I had to say. But overall, my whole life, it's been nerve-wracking. And when I went to seminary and then really had a very difficult experience leaving my job and then going to seminary, I was completely broken, and it was soul care that helped me to find my true identity. And as I was, discovering my true identity and living out of that foundation that I am deeply loved no matter what, it became easier for me to be in front of an audience, and I wasn't anymore a kind of person who would just be depressed afterwards and just put all my identity in my performance. So I was so much better. And then what I was thinking today is this next part. In January 15th, we had our very first freedom group at harvest time. That was the very first time I led adults in a small group setting. Until then, I had all my experience was with kids. And so that was my very first time. And after this evening, or in the end of it, one person that now is my very good friend, I won't say her name, said to me, "Oh, you were nervous." And that kind of, I wanted her to know that I was so much less nervous than I've ever been in my life, but she still thought I was nervous. And because the truth was that I was, but so it's so interesting that weekend. So that was Wednesday, and Friday I went to a retreat with this class I was taking in New York City, and we had a weekend retreat. And during that retreat, I started digging into why did it still bother me that this person said that you were nervous. And I just really asked the Holy Spirit to show me like what's underneath that. I know my identity, I am deeply loved, it shouldn't shake me anymore. So then a memory from my childhood came to mind when I was in second grade. The teacher asked me and a few others to stand in front of the class and read from a book. And I really needed to go to the bathroom. So I asked the teacher, can I go to the bathroom? And she said no. So I peed in my pants in front of the classroom. And I don't remember feeling shame, or I honestly don't remember anything about it except, what happened. But in that moment, when I asked the Holy Spirit to show me, why am I still having nervousness and anxiety over speaking in front of people? And Holy Spirit showed me that is the root of it, that moment. And this morning, when I was thinking about these wounds, another thing came to my mind, and it's so ridiculous, almost like embarrassing to share, but I'm sharing it anyway because maybe somebody can relate to it. When I would be, for example, in women's Bible studies where we read from the Bible and everybody reads one verse and we go in a circle, that was such a nerve-wracking thing for me most of my life. I would literally count which verse is mine, and I wouldn't hear anything that anybody else says. I would just be rehearsing that verse in my head so that I wouldn't miss a word or mispronounce something or just make a fool out of myself. And today I realized how these two things are connected. Me reading in front of a class, feeling where I believe my anxiety in front of an audience began, because I was very expressive. I loved acting when I was younger, and then I think that event really changed me. So that's how this reading anxiety in front of people then connected with just being in front of an audience. So in end of January, when I was at this retreat, I then asked Holy Spirit to show me where was Jesus in that moment when I was in second grade, struggling to read in front of my classmates. And I saw Jesus standing behind me, and his arm was over my shoulder and his finger was pointing to each word that I was to read. And Jesus was there helping me, and that was so healing for me. And I believe that was in end of January was when I began to let go of this anxiety that was not only founded or in my identity, like it didn't completely go away, even though my identity wasn't based on my performance anymore, but I needed to find the root where that wound first happened. And the healing came from Jesus, seeing Jesus there with me as a second grader, helping me read. That's where the healing came. Jesus is the healer. And I hope you will find these same connections as you dig into your behaviors and your anxieties and whatever ways your wounds manifest in your life. And you may ask, so what's the point of all this? There we could miss our prophetic destiny because of these wounds and lies that we believe about ourselves. Because these are things that we base decisions in our lives. I would have possibly, if I didn't have this performance anxiety, my life would have been completely different. I would have loved do teaching. I always had a call to ministry, but a lot of those kind of careers, they involve public speaking. So I chose physical therapy, where I could just be one-on-one with patients, and I loved it. But so that's why we need to dig deep, find our true selves, ask the Holy Spirit to heal the wound, bring the wounds to our attention, and ask Jesus to heal them. And it's never too late. You know, God can use us no matter how old we are. So that is why it is important to dig deep. And I hope you will do that and just take the time to spend with God. You and God finding the root of what's holding you back from the person that God intended you to be fully. Thanks for listening.